A small figure pushed through the heavy hospital doors on a cold winter night, her arms wrapped protectively around a bundle swaddled in a worn pink blanket. Sarah Thompson, barely 10 years old, stepped up to the emergency room reception desk, her chin barely reaching the counter. Despite her young age, there was a determined look in her eyes that made the night nurse pause. "Please." Sarah's voice trembled slightly, but remained clear. "The baby needs help. She's been crying all night and feels very warm." Nurse Jenkins quickly came around the desk, her experienced eyes taking in the unusual sight. A child, alone at midnight, carrying what appeared to be a newborn. Years of emergency room experience hadn't prepared her for this. "Where are your parents, sweetheart? And whose baby is this?" Sarah's grip on the bundle tightened slightly as she looked up at the nurse. "The baby's name is Rose. She's my sister." She paused, gathering courage before continuing. "And also my niece." The nurse's hands froze midway through reaching for the infant. "What do you mean?" "My sister Emma is the mother," Sarah explained, her young voice carrying a weight far beyond her years. "She's 15, and she's very sick too. She's at home with a high fever, but Mom doesn't know. Mom works nights at the factory, and we—" Her voice cracked slightly. "We didn't want to worry her." The emergency room fell silent as nearby staff members overheard the exchange. The gravity of the situation, a 15-year-old mother, too ill to seek help for her baby, sending her 10-year-old sister out into the night, settled over the room like a heavy blanket. "How long has your sister been sick?" Nurse Jenkins asked gently, carefully taking the baby from Sarah's arms. 3 days, Sarah replied, her eyes never leaving the infant. "I've been trying to help, but Rose started getting really hot tonight, and Emma couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't know what else to do." The nurse quickly assessed the baby, noting the elevated temperature and signs of dehydration. As she called for a pediatrician, she couldn't help but marvel at the young girl standing beside her, showing more courage and responsibility than many adults she knew. "Where do you live, Sarah?" she asked, already reaching for the phone to alert emergency services about Emma's condition. "Pine Street Apartments, number 403, Sarah answered promptly. "Please, will Rose be okay? And can someone help Emma too?" As medical staff rushed to attend to the baby, Nurse Jenkins wrapped an arm around Sarah's shoulders. "We're going to take care of both of them, sweetheart. You did exactly the right thing coming here." Sarah's shoulders slumped slightly in relief, and for the first time since entering the hospital, she allowed herself to look her age, a scared 10-year-old who had been carrying far too heavy a burden. Silent tears began rolling down her cheeks as she watched the doctors examine her niece. "I promised Emma I'd protect them both," she whispered, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her oversized sweater. "She was so scared when Rose was born. She made me promise not to tell anyone, but—" She looked up at the nurse, seeking reassurance. "But sometimes you have to break promises to keep people safe, right?" Nurse Jenkins felt her own eyes welling up as she hugged the brave little girl. "Yes, sweetheart. Sometimes love means making hard choices to protect the people we care about. You've been so brave tonight." The story of Sarah's midnight journey began spreading through the hospital, touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. A 10-year-old girl walking 6 blocks in the cold to save her sister and newborn niece, carrying not just a baby, but the weight of adult responsibilities on her small shoulders. As paramedics were dispatched to check on Emma, hospital staff gathered around Sarah, offering comfort and praise for her courage. The pediatrician treating Rose assured her that while the baby was running a fever, they had caught it in time, and with proper care, she would recover fully. Sarah sat in a chair by the examination table, her eyes never leaving her tiny niece as doctors and nurses worked. She had fulfilled her promise to protect them, and now, finally, she could let the grown-ups help. But there was still one more difficult moment ahead, telling her mother the truth about what had been happening in their home while she worked night shifts to support her family. The clock ticked past midnight, and Sarah waited, knowing that soon her mother would arrive and their family's secret would finally come to light. But for now, she had done what needed to be done, guided by love and an instinct to protect that transcended her young age. Emma Thompson lay in her bed at Pine Street Apartments, burning with fever and worry. The last 3 weeks had been a blur of secrecy, fear, and desperate attempts to care for a newborn while hiding everything from their hard-working mother. Now, as she drifted in and out of consciousness, her only comfort was knowing Sarah would protect Rose. The sound of sirens pierced through her feverish haze. Moments later, paramedics were at her bedside, their voices gentle but urgent as they assessed her condition. Through the fog of illness, she heard them mention sepsis and postpartum complications. Emma tried to focus, to explain about Rose, but the words wouldn't come. "Your sister sent us," one paramedic assured her, noticing her distress. "The baby is safe at the hospital. You did a good job keeping her alive, but now it's time to let us help you." Tears rolled down Emma's burning cheeks as they lifted her onto a stretcher. The secret she had carried for 9 months, the baby she had delivered in their small bathroom with only her 10-year-old sister to help, the desperate attempts to care for a newborn while maintaining a facade of normalcy. It was all unraveling. The story emerged in pieces during the ambulance ride. Emma, a sophomore in high school, had discovered her pregnancy after a single encounter with a boy who had since moved away. Terrified of disappointing her mother, who worked endless shifts to support them after their father's death, she had hidden her condition beneath loose clothes and careful excuses. Sarah had been her only confidant, showing a maturity far beyond her years. When Emma went into labor 2 months ago, it was Sarah who helped deliver the baby, following instructions from medical websites she'd secretly studied. It was Sarah who had figured out how to care for Rose, who ran to the store for supplies, who helped feed and change the baby while their mother slept between shifts. At the hospital, doctors discovered that Emma's fever stemmed from an untreated infection following the birth. The lack of proper medical care during pregnancy and delivery had put both mother and baby at serious risk. As they rushed to start her on powerful antibiotics, Emma's only questions were about Rose and Sarah. Meanwhile, Maria Thompson had just finished her shift at the factory when she received the call that would change everything. Her daughters, all 3 of them, were at the hospital. The factory supervisor, seeing her legs give out at the news, personally drove her to the emergency room. Maria arrived still wearing her work uniform, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. She found Emma in the ICU, pale and vulnerable beneath a tangle of IV lines. In the adjacent pediatric ward, Sarah sat vigilantly beside baby Rose's crib, refusing to leave her post as her niece's protector. The sight of her youngest daughter, small but resolute, keeping watch over a baby she had helped deliver and care for, broke something in Maria. She sank to her knees beside Sarah's chair, gathering both her and Rose into her arms. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "I wanted to tell you, but I promised Emma I wouldn't. She was so scared of making you sad." Maria's tears fell freely as she held her daughter and granddaughter. "Oh, my brave, foolish girls," she murmured. "You didn't have to carry this alone. You never have to carry anything alone." The truth continued to unfold, how Emma had hidden her pregnancy, terrified of adding to her mother's burdens. How Sarah had become not just a sister, but a midwife and co-parent at age 10. How they had managed to keep their secret for 3 weeks after Rose's birth, until illness forced them to seek help. As Emma stabilized under medical care, The hospital staff worked to ensure the family received the support they needed. Social workers helped Maria adjust her work schedule and find childcare resources. Nurses taught Emma proper newborn care techniques while marveling at how much Sarah already knew. The pediatric staff, touched by Sarah's dedication, made her an honorary junior nurse, teaching her the correct ways to care for her niece while ensuring she could still be a child herself. They watched in amazement as this 10-year-old girl, who had been forced to grow up too quickly, finally allowed herself to share the burden she had been carrying. The story of Emma's secret pregnancy and Sarah's extraordinary role in protecting her sister and niece spread through the hospital, touching hearts and opening doors. Staff members organized donations of baby supplies and clothes. A local women's support group offered assistance and counseling. The hospital administration worked with social services to ensure the family would have ongoing medical care and support. But it was the image of Sarah, the 10-year-old guardian angel, that stayed with everyone who heard the story. Her midnight journey to the hospital, carrying not just a baby, but the weight of adult responsibilities, became a symbol of love's power to inspire extraordinary courage in the most unexpected places. The story of the Thompson family spread rapidly through the hospital and into the wider community, touching hearts and inspiring an outpouring of support. What began as a medical emergency evolved into a testament to the strength of community bonds and human compassion. Hospital staff were particularly moved by Sarah's extraordinary actions. Dr. Rebecca Chen, the pediatrician who first treated Rose, organized a hospital-wide initiative to support the family. "When a 10-year-old shows more courage and responsibility than most adults I know," she told her colleagues, "we have a duty to ensure that bravery doesn't go unrecognized." The response was overwhelming. Nurses from every department contributed baby supplies, clothes, and necessities. The hospital social work team coordinated with local organizations to establish long-term support systems for the family. Anonymous donations began appearing at the nurses' station, marked simply for the Thompson girls. Local media caught wind of the story, focusing not on sensationalism but on the incredible bond between the sisters and the community's response. The headline, "10-year-old hero saves sister and niece," sparked a wave of support from across the city. Maria's employer, upon learning of the situation, immediately adjusted her schedule to accommodate her family's needs and established a more flexible working arrangement. The factory workers, many of them parents themselves, organized a support network to help with childcare and household needs. Emma's high school principal visited her in the hospital, not to judge, but to discuss options for continuing her education while caring for Rose. The school community rallied around her, with teachers offering to provide home instruction during her recovery and fellow students organizing a baby shower. But perhaps most touching was the response of the pediatric ward staff to Sarah. They recognized that while she had shown remarkable maturity, she was still a child who deserved to experience childhood. They created a special role for her as a junior patient advocate, allowing her to help care for Rose under proper supervision while ensuring she had time to just be a 10-year-old girl. Child psychologists worked with Sarah to help her process the tremendous responsibility she had carried. Through art therapy and counseling sessions, she began to express the fears and anxieties she had suppressed while caring for her sister and niece. The hospital's child life specialists organized activities that allowed her to play and interact with other children her age, gradually helping her reclaim the childhood moments she had sacrificed. Local businesses joined the effort to support the family. A nearby daycare offered free childcare services. A pharmacy established a program to cover Rose's medical supplies. A law firm provided pro bono services to help Maria navigate guardianship and support issues. The community's response went beyond material assistance. Support groups for young mothers reached out to Emma, offering friendship and understanding rather than judgment. Single mothers who had faced similar challenges became mentors, sharing their experiences and wisdom. As news of the family's story spread, letters and cards began arriving at the hospital from people touched by their situation. Many shared their own stories of family struggles and triumphs, creating a tapestry of shared experiences that helped the Thompsons feel less alone. The hospital administration, recognizing the unique nature of the case, worked with insurance providers and support organizations to ensure the family would have access to necessary medical care without facing crushing financial burden. A special fund was established to cover ongoing healthcare needs for both Emma and Rose. Religious organizations and community groups organized meal trains and household support services, ensuring the family could focus on healing and bonding rather than day-to-day logistics. Volunteers helped maintain their apartment, did laundry, and provided transportation to medical appointments. Throughout it all, the focus remained on preserving the dignity and privacy of the Thompson family while providing the support they needed. The community's response showed that sometimes the deepest wounds can be healed not just by medical intervention, but by the collective embrace of a caring society. As Emma recovered and Rose grew stronger, the outpouring of support continued to sustain them. What had begun as a desperate midnight journey by a brave 10-year-old had transformed into a powerful reminder of humanity's capacity for compassion and the strength found in unity. The Thompson family story became a catalyst for positive change in the community, inspiring discussions about support systems for struggling families and the importance of creating networks of care. Sarah's courage had not only saved her sister and niece, but had awakened a community to the power of collective action and unconditional love. 3 months after that fateful night at the hospital, the Thompson family had settled into a new rhythm. Emma, fully recovered from her postpartum infection, had returned to school part-time while taking online classes to complete her education. Baby Rose was thriving under the care of her young mother, grandmother, and devoted Aunt Sarah. The hospital room that had once witnessed their family crisis had become a place of healing and hope. Regular checkups for Rose became opportunities for celebration as the medical staff who had supported them from the beginning watched the baby grow stronger each week. Sarah, while maintaining her special bond with Rose, was slowly learning to be a child again. The hospital's child psychologist, Dr. Martinez, had worked wonders in helping her process the trauma and responsibility she had carried. "It's okay to just be 10, she would remind Sarah during their sessions. "You've been so brave, but now it's time to let the grown-ups handle the grown-up things." The transformation in Sarah was remarkable. She still helped with Rose, but now it was with the natural enthusiasm of a loving aunt rather than the weight of adult responsibility. She had joined a local youth group, made new friends, and even started taking art classes, something she had always wanted to do but never had time for while caring for her sister and niece. Emma's recovery went beyond the physical. With the support of counseling and young mothers groups, she was working through the emotional trauma of her secret pregnancy and difficult delivery. Her relationship with her mother had deepened as they learned to communicate more openly about their fears, hopes, and needs. Maria had reduced her work hours, realizing that time with her family was more precious than extra shifts. The support from the community had helped them establish a stable routine that allowed her to be more present for all 3 of her girls. She watched with pride as Emma mothered Rose with growing confidence and with relief as Sarah reclaimed her childhood. The pediatric ward staff continued to celebrate Sarah's role in saving Rose and Emma, but now they focused on encouraging her to embrace age-appropriate activities. They had established a small library corner in her honor, filled with books for young readers, recognizing her love of learning that had helped her care for Rose during those critical early weeks. Rose, now a healthy and happy 3-month-old, had become the heart of their reconstructed family. Her milestones were celebrated not just by her immediate family, but by the extended network of support that had formed around them. Each smile, each small achievement, was a reminder of the night Sarah's courage had changed everything. The apartment on Pine Street had transformed as well. Once a place of secrets and silent struggles, it now buzzed with life and love. The walls were decorated with Sarah's artwork, photos of Rose's progress, and cards from well-wishers who continued to support their journey. Emma had begun sharing her story with other young girls at her school, not to glorify her experience, but to emphasize the importance of seeking help and support. Her honesty and resilience inspired others to open up about their own struggles, creating a ripple effect of healing and understanding. The family's weekly visits to the hospital became moments of joy rather than crisis. Dr. Chen would often find Sarah in the pediatric ward, reading stories to other young patients while Rose napped nearby. The sight of the young girl, now able to help others from a place of healing rather than desperation, moved many to tears. One evening, as the family sat together in their living room, Maria watched her daughters, Emma gently rocking Rose, Sarah sprawled on the floor with her homework, and felt overwhelming gratitude. The crisis that could have torn them apart had instead bound them together more strongly than ever. Sarah looked up from her math problems and caught her mother's eye. "Mom," she said with the directness that characterized her, "I'm glad we don't have to keep secrets anymore." Maria crossed the room to embrace her youngest daughter, the child who had carried them all through their darkest hour. "No more secrets," she promised, drawing Emma and Rose into the hug. "We're stronger together." The story of the 10-year-old girl who brought a baby to the hospital continued to inspire, but now it was also a story of healing, growth, and the remarkable resilience of a family rebuilt on foundations of truth and unconditional love. 1 year had passed since Sarah's brave midnight journey to the hospital. The Thompson family gathered in their renovated apartment to celebrate Rose's first birthday, surrounded by the community that had become their extended family. The living room was filled with well-wishers, hospital staff who had become friends, teachers who had supported Emma's return to school, neighbors who had helped with childcare, and social workers who had guided their journey. Baby Rose, now walking with wobbly determination, toddled between guests, her infectious laugh drawing smiles from everyone. Sarah, now 11, had blossomed into a confident young girl who balanced her role as loving aunt with her own interests and friendships. She had been honored at her school for starting a peer support group, helping other children dealing with family challenges. Her experience had given her wisdom beyond her years, but now it was tempered with the lightness of childhood restored. Emma, completing her junior year with excellent grades, had become an advocate for young mothers in their community. She worked with the hospital's outreach program, sharing her story to help others understand the importance of seeking support. Her bond with Rose had grown stronger each day, proving that young motherhood, while challenging, could be navigated with proper support and love. Maria watched her family with pride, remembering how close they had come to tragedy and marveling at their transformation. The night shifts at the factory were now a thing of the past. She had been promoted to a day supervisor position that allowed her to be home when her family needed her most. During the celebration, Dr. Chen presented a special announcement. The hospital was establishing the Thompson Family Support Initiative, a program designed to help other families in crisis. Sarah's courage had inspired a lasting change in how the community approached families in need. As Rose blew out her birthday candle, with considerable help from Sarah, the gathered crowd applauded, not just for the baby's milestone, but for the journey that had brought them all together. The story of a 10-year-old girl's midnight hospital visit had evolved into a testament to the power of love, courage, and community. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Sarah sat with Rose in their favorite reading corner. Emma joined them, and soon Maria completed the circle. 4 generations of Thompson women, bound by love and strengthened by adversity. "You saved us," Emma said softly to Sarah, watching Rose drift off to sleep in her arms. "Not just that night, but every day before it, when you helped me keep going." Sarah smiled, leaning against her mother's shoulder. "We saved each other," she replied with the simple wisdom that had guided her actions that fateful night. "That's what family does." The Thompson family's story continued to inspire others, a reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of courage come from the smallest hearts, and that no burden is too heavy when carried together. Sarah's midnight journey had not just saved her sister and niece, it had awakened a community to the power of compassion and the strength found in unity. As the stars shone over Pine Street, much as they had on that desperate night a year ago, they illuminated not a secret burden, but a family strengthened by truth, supported by community, and bound together by a love that had transformed tragedy into triumph. The legacy of the 10-year-old girl who brought a baby to the hospital lived on, not just in the Thompson family, but in the countless lives touched by their story. It served as a testament to the extraordinary courage of ordinary people and the enduring power of unconditional love to light the way through the darkest nights toward hope and healing. And for Sarah, whose brave heart had set this journey in motion, the greatest gift was the simple joy of being 11 years old, surrounded by family, free to dream of her own future, while watching her niece grow under the protective embrace of a community bound together by love, compassion, and the unshakable belief in the power of helping others.